Welcome to your Get That Nugget for GCSE Maths. Today we will be concentrating on giving you a framework to answer grade 2 fraction of amount style questions. So please note this session is to complement your lessons with your teachers. It is not to replace them in any way. So let's have a look at some typical questions we might see to do with fraction of amounts. A couple of pretty standard questions that we can see here. So find a fraction of this quantity and then find a fraction of this quantity. Now, the method of fraction of amounts is actually quite straightforward in that if I need to find 3/5 of 20, effectively what we need to do is we need to divide by the denominator and then we are going to multiply by the numerator. So what we have here, we can see that we've got 20 is our starting number. We're going to divide it by our denominator, which is 5, and then we're going to multiply that value by 3. So hopefully this is one we can do in our head. We know 20 divided by 5 is going to be 4, and we multiply that by 3, we get an answer of 12. So pretty straightforward one there. You divide by the bottom and you multiply by the top. So we'll do a similar thing with 2/7 of 84. So what we've got here is we need to find 2/7 of 84 this time. And again, same process, same method. We're going to divide by the denominator and we're going to multiply by the numerator. So what we've got, 84, we're going to divide it by 7 and then we're going to multiply that answer by the numerator, which is 2. Again, I've chosen nice numbers to begin with. So hopefully in our 7 times table, there are 12 7s in 84. And if I do 12 times 2, I should get 24 as my final answer. So pretty standard, those questions, in that if it's a nice number we can divide by, we can clearly see that we divide by the bottom and then we multiply it by the top. Now, there are instances, however, when the questions aren't necessarily as straightforward. So what we've got here is we need to find 3/8 of 6 kilograms. So a couple of ways to tackle this one, and there's no set way as long as we get to the correct answer. So if I want to find 3/8 of 6, I'm going to write kg because we've got our units there. Then again, the process is still the same. We're still going to need to divide by the bottom and we're still going to need to multiply by the top. So for this one, I need to, if we're going to write that calculation out, what that means is I'm going to start with 6. I'm going to divide it by my denominator, which is 8, and we're going to then multiply by 3. Now, hopefully you can see the stumbling block we've got here in that 6 divided by 8 isn't necessarily something I'm going to know off the top of my head. So there are times when I'm going to need to do a little bit of bust-up division, just to help me get to my answer, and then I might need to multiply that and use my methods for multiplication as well. So 6 divided by 8, I'm going to do a separate calculation down here, give myself a bit of space. Remember, it's 6 divided by 8, so I'm going to see how many 8s go into 6. Now, you notice I've left the extra boxes because there's a good chance this is going to go into a decimal. So how many 8s go into 6? Well, that's 0. So we're going to now go into our decimal places. So I'm going to put a couple of zeros, 3 zeros in there for us. So 8s into 6 didn't go, so we're going to now carry our 6. And then we go, right, how many 8s go into 60? And hopefully we can do our 8 times table. That takes me to 7. And I know that 7 times 8 is 56, so I've got a remainder of 4. And then in this case of how many 8s go into 40, that's quite nice. That's quite straightforward, and that's going to be 5. So I can see there's nothing left over. So my answer for that first part of the calculation is 0.75. So what I now need to do is multiply my 0.75 by 3. So there may be occasions where we've got a little bit of decimal work. So 0.75 multiplied by 3. Again, if you're not confident with this in your head, then we can write out the multiplication that we need to do. So for me, I would remove the decimal place, and then I'm going to multiply it using this box method with my diagonals, which you may have seen, but you might have your own method. So what I'm going to do here is 5 times 3, which I know is 15, and then 7 times 3, which I know is 21. And I'm going to add my diagonals. So we've got 5 in this one. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then I've got 2 in this one. So the digits for this question are 2 to 5. But we can clearly see that that's going to be far too big. So I've got 2 numbers behind the decimal point altogether in this part of the question, which means I'm going to make sure that I've got the 5 and the 2 behind my decimal place. So the answer for this one is 2.25. So the process is still the same. We still divide, and then we still divide by the denominator and then multiply by the top. But it just might be that the question's a little bit tricky. We might have some decimals we have to deal with. So let's have a little look at a couple of slightly advanced questions. So here we have 5/7 of a number is 40. So effectively, what we need to do here is the question isn't saying what is 5/7 of 40. For this one, I know that 5/7 of a number is 40. So what they're saying is 5/7 of something, but we don't know what that is equivalent to 40. So what we effectively want to do this time is we're told the answer and we want to know effectively what the original question was. So we can work backwards. Now what we can do is we can now, for this one, we can divide by the numerator and multiply by the denominator because we want to do the inverse or the opposite of finding a fractional amount because we know the answer. So because we know the answer, we're going to do the inverse, which means I'm going to start with 40 and I'm going to work backwards. Initially, my last step would have been to multiply by 5. So what we're going to do, we're going to divide that by 5 and then we're going to multiply that answer by 7. So we've got 40 divided by 5 is lovely. It's 8. And if I times that by 7, we get 56. So my answer is 56. And if we want to check that, if we think about 5/7 of 56, well, what we would do is we would divide 56 by 7, which is 8. And we'd multiply that by the numerator. Well, 8 times 5 is 40. So we're happy that that works. So always check your answer and put it back into the original question. Okay, and then one more sort of a contextual type question, normally to do with sale prices. So I've got a watch that is worth £120 and is reduced in the sale by 2/3. And the question is, what is the sale price? So we're going to need to find out what 2/3 of 120 is going to be, because this is going to be how much it's reduced by. And remember, fraction amount, we can divide by the bottom and we can multiply by the top. So we're going to start with 120. We're going to divide it by 3 and then we're going to multiply it by 2. Now 120 divided by 3, well, I know 12 divided by 3 is 4. That's going to be 40. When we multiply that by 2, we should get 80. But it's always important to read the question. A watch is worth 120 and it is reduced in the sale by 2/3. So that's how much it's been reduced by. And the question wants us to work out the sale price. So what's important we do is that we start with our original price, and what we need to do is subtract this discount or this amount of money that's been reduced by. 120 divided by 80 gives me an answer or a sale price of £40. So always make sure you've answered the question itself. It wants to know the sale price, not how much it's been reduced by. There's the reduction. Take it away from our original price, leaves me with £40. And that's the answer for that question. So what we'll do is leave you a couple of questions to try to see if you're comfortable with the process of fraction of amounts. So a couple of questions for you there. More straightforward ones early on, bit of a decimal in the middle, and then one of those contextual ones at the end as well. Give those a go, see how you get on. Remember, you divide by the denominator, and then we multiply by the numerator.